Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Baisakhi.
Hi, Apeksha. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Good. I was actually on a call with one of the recruiter. That's why I messaged saying I'll be 5 minutes late.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Yeah.
That's why I asked you to no worries. We can start after 5 minutes. So
Mm-hmm.
you can inform Shreya as well.
Okay.
Okay. So she'll be connecting in a moment. Let's wait for 2 minutes more,
Yeah,
and
sure.
we're good to go. Okay.
Okay.
So take all the insights from Shreya. Okay, that
Mm-hmm.
is really going to help you out for your screening calls as well as your
Yeah,
interviews. Yeah.
sure.
She's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
technical
definitely.
recruiter. Yeah, she's a technical recruiter and she knows how to deal all the questions, all the answers, how to present yourself in front of the recruiter. Okay.
Okay.
So at any point of time you felt that something is lagging or you need something more, just
Mm-hmm.
feel free to ask her whatever you want. Yeah.
Okay, sure. I will.
Yes. And even you'll be connecting with Prem. No
Mm-hmm.
worries at all regarding the assessment.
Yeah, yeah. He told after the weekend, na? So it's fine. I will wait because anyway, Thursday is the deadline, right? So we still have
Right.
time. I feel
Hmm.
once we start with it, it will not take much time. It will be able we should be able to finish it soon, so it should be okay.
Right, right, exactly, exactly. So
Actually,
just
I am not taking the chance to, open and do it all by myself because I just have one chance, so I don't want to lose it.
yeah, I got it, got it. Say, hey, hi Shreya.
Hi, how are you all?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good as well. Thank you for waiting and joining.
Yeah. Hi, Shreya. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Perfect. Are we ready for this?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just get my screen out. So, what is the time there for you?
It's 1 o'clock. I'm in the
Okay.
EST zone.
Okay. All right. Correct. Perfect. I like asking that just to understand where are we in terms of energy.
Yeah. It's just the beginning, the first half, so it should be fine.
Okay. That's debatable. Like I can be tired at 10 a.m. also, so but I get you what you say. I
Yeah.
would love if you can turn on the camera.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Okay. So what we will do is in the beginning, I'll ask you a couple of questions, get an understanding of
sure.
who you are, how do you present yourself, and all
Mm-hmm.
of that. I can go about giving you a couple of feedback and then redo the whole thing. So my idea is
Sure.
to create a little bit of kind of mock interview session, but then not
Mm-hmm.
plainly that because then we're just meeting for the first time. I just need to understand what is your process and you
Yeah.
need to understand my process, right? So we'll just start and then
Okay. Sure.
in between, you'll see me holding my phone. That's just me timing you, nothing else. And then I would be taking notes as well because then I would love to give that real time feedback rather than just
Okay.
thinking about it
Sure.
later. Um, that being said, I would be talking about not just the answers, but also just the idea of soft skills. How do I perceive that in terms of body language, posture, eye contact, and everything. So just take me as if I would be very critical to be honest. But then like take me as
Okay.
someone who would give you a full feedback. Okay.
Sure.
All right, perfect. So the very obvious question, let's hear it from you in terms of who you are and what are we doing here?
Okay. So my name is Baisakhi Kundu. I recently graduated with an MBA in Business Analytics
Mhm.
from the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. Prior to that, I have completed my undergrad in computer science and engineering. And after which, I have worked with multiple organizations as a business data analyst, also as a data engineer.
Mhm.
And throughout my professional journey, I have learned how to meet the stakeholders, how to gather requirements, how to do the map and gap analysis. So, based on all this information that we gather, we kind of build these data pipelines on ETL, make sure that we are able to work with all the source systems that we have. We do the extraction, transformation, and load. So the major times that I've worked on the target systems that is into big data. I have also been part of designing the workflows in order to do the ETL processes, go smooth. And apart from that, I also have experience in extracting reports for the clients.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time it was on Tableau dashboards. And some of the times we would also do these PowerPoint presentations where we would give them a lot of insights in the form of data visualizations. So
Mm-hmm.
when I say data visualizations, it would be in the form of pivot tables or bar charts, pie charts,
Yeah.
etc. And yeah, that's pretty much the professional experience that I hold. And right now, I am looking for other opportunities that would give me more, something that I already hold and something that I want to learn, that I'm really passionate about. And that's why I'm looking for new roles and new responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's pretty much about myself.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that rundown. And then when you talk about stakeholders, can you talk about a very challenging situation for any of your stakeholders, maybe internal or external, and then how did you resolve it? How did you even come to know about that?
Yeah, sure. So as part of the work that we do, we have to talk to a lot of stakeholders every single day. So I think there are situations where we do not get a stakeholder who talks really, gives you a lot of information. There are stakeholders who just constrained from giving information, or they do not want to share everything. You have to like literally ask them each and every point. So those kind of situations become a little difficult to deal with. But I think there are a couple of things that we could do in order to resolve this. I feel the first and foremost thing is, before meeting any stakeholder, if you have prior information about them, so if they are your previous stakeholders with whom you would have worked on other projects, so you would know about that stakeholder. So it's always good to do a little bit of homework about them, what kind of a person they are, whether they are giving you all the information that you want. So if they do not, then try to make some notes and try to make some questions which you want to ask them. And yeah, I think that's one thing. And second thing is, obviously, you have to be having open communication with the clients or stakeholders with whomever we are talking. So
Mm-hmm.
I think when we have this open communication, if I'm having a doubt when they are talking something, I have a doubt. So I just, I upfront ask them what it is. And it's always better to reiterate and get to know the things than to be in confusion. So I think these are a couple of things that we could, may, keep or like understand within us before, getting in touch with stakeholders.
Okay, all right. That sounds good. And then if you have you ever worked with like a team member or a subordinate or in fact a manager who isn't taking full accountability of their work, and then a lot of work is either being pressed upon you or the project is in danger? Have you ever been in that situation? And if you have, then talk about it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think there are instances like that from the past which I have, dealt, where people do not want to take the entire responsibility of a work. Especially these situations happen almost, towards the project deadlines, when when we have to meet deadlines and we have a lot of work on our backs, on our plates. So at that time, people do not want to take the responsibility. And I feel if I am the person who is managing them, or if I'm mentoring them, or if somebody who is working under me, I would definitely take the responsibility on myself, because after all, that's a good leader what they do, right? So I think in such a situation, what a person can do is obviously take responsibility of the person under you, your subordinates. And one more thing is, if you are a good leader, you should also be knowing how to, delegate your work. So
Mhm.
it's not like if they're not taking accountability, there are definitely some measures which we could take, and, assign them work, and then make sure they're finishing it by the end of the day, or something like that. So I think these are like small steps which we could take. And even after these things, if a person is not doing their work, then I think it's difficult, obviously, like to work. So we have to figure out some other kind of work that we can give them. So if a person is not very good at technical stuff, then we can try to give them some kind of non-technical things that we work on in the project. So that kind of delegation has to happen.
Okay, all right. And then give me an idea, what was your last project, or like, talk about one of the project from your last company, and then what were you working on?
Okay, sure. So I think I'll talk about the first project that I started working as a professional. So the first project that I was working for was T-Mobile, and that was a data migration project that I was working on. So T-Mobile wanted to kind of move all their legacy systems into big data Hadoop. So the migration that we were doing was from a lot of relational database systems, mainly Informatica. We had Teradata, and some of the information was residing in Oracle as well. So all these source system information was something that we had to pull and then put it into big data Hadoop systems. So for this, we kind of developed ETL pipelines in order to connect to the source systems and extract the data. And once we had the extracted data with us, we stored it into the staging environment. And from there, we would apply the business logic that was given to us and transform the data. And once the transformation has happened, we would do a lot of testing on top of the data to make sure that the data is accurate and based on the requirements that's given to us. And once the testing is completed, we push these changes into the target system. And again, this was all done with the help of cron jobs. So we would schedule some jobs which would kind of push like kind of work in as my in my first project.
Okay, all right. And then if you would have to, what is that you think makes you any different than any other candidate that, I might get to speak with today?
Um, so I feel I have a mix of both the technical understanding and also the functional understanding of any project. So whenever there is a project that we have to work on, I understand what is going to be the business aspects and who are the ones who's going to get affected with it. And talking about the functional aspects, I know like what kind of things the client is working on. So I have this uh, uh, I know that how to connect with the clients and how to understand their point of view in order to execute a particular enhancement, or if they want to build a new system in place or a new data process. So I kind of get this hang on what they are talking about or what kind of information that they want from us. So once we have this information, I kind of also have a lot of understanding about the technical aspects. So when I talk about technical aspects, it is like, what kind of codes are to be written and how can we optimize those codes. So I have a pretty much, the balance of both the technical and the functional aspects of a given project. So I think that is kind of something that makes me stand out from the other people.
Okay. And then in this world with like security and, other issues and AI is going on, how do you make sure that you're compliant with every legal or, all the regulations as well?
Okay, awesome. So I'm not prepared for that answer. I haven't got any question as such.
Okay, think about it. It's fine. Like I said, that we would just, I'll give you a second to think about it. Not a
Mhm.
second, 30 seconds to think about
Okay.
it.
Um, so So talking about security or compliance, I think these are a couple of measures that we try to build when we are documenting the business requirements. So we kind of see what are the risks that are involved in order to proceed with the project. In order to work with the sources, any issues that we're going to have, or any kind of SOX compliance that we have to follow. So these are the kind of like, and also the audits as well. So I think these are the information that we collect in the beginning when we are discussing the project scope. And based on that, and as I told you, like we kind of figure out what are the type of risks that we could get affected with at the later point or during the project, right? project implementation. So I think based on that research and based on that information, when we can give it to the clients, say that these are the risks that we are possibly, thinking that we would have to come up with. So at that point in time, we see like what the client has for us, and what are their suggestions, and what are the kind of fundamentals or what principles we could apply in order to make sure that these risks are mitigated, or how these risks can be handled. So I think also with the growing technology that we have, we should also be at par with the new rules or the regulations or any kind of um, fundamental principles, and to be precise, to have a knowledge about them, or if there are any standards that we need to follow in order to document the requirements, or in order to make sure that the project is proceeding in a correct way. So I think some standards or some kind of principles or rules, something that we could establish.
Okay, so if you had to summarize this in three pointers, what would that be?
So yeah. So first thing, what I can say is obviously be at pace with the uh, standards that your project is, uh, you know, the type of project that we work on. So suppose we are working on a financial project. So what are the different standards that are suitable only for the financial, risks that are involved in a given project? So I think those kind of standards we could involve in while documenting the requirements. So that is one thing. Second thing is obviously to apply a kind of security, some kinds of codes that we could add while we are developing a new system or new data process, to make sure that we are doing that extra step in order to uh, so there's something called exception handling that we do in while writing the codes, right? So that is also a kind of thing that we could do, and an extra check while to do the security check. So I think I can just like, yeah, think of this right now.
Okay, all right, that's great. And then give me an idea. You've been working in corporate. What do you think have been the, very common or maybe difficult challenges that usually you all come across? And when I say you all, as in people who are related with data engineering, people who are related with data
Right.
analysis, what are the major challenges in corporate these days for them?
Okay, so the first challenge that I think people face is when there is a roadblock, right? When we have problems in proceeding to the next step of the work that we do. I think so getting answers from another team. So when we are dependent on another team to work with, at that point, to communicate with that particular team or to get some insights from them, which would help us in order to move forward with the project. I think that is one challenge that we face. And second challenge is obviously right now, because of the remote work culture that we are having, it's very difficult to get hang of all the people that we want to work with.
Mhm,
So the same thing was not happening when everyone was working from office, right? So
mhm,
sometimes we could just show up at their desks and say, you know what, I want this information, can you just email me? So
mhm,
those kind of things would happen previously, and now that is a little bit of a challenge that we have to face. But
mhm.
yeah, we are still learning, and we are in the process of that. So yeah, and another challenge that I can think about is obviously when there is a project and we have a lot of user stories to work with.
Mhm,
So if you have somebody working under you whom you have to explain, and if they're really new to all this technology and the tools that we work with, it's very difficult to train them, because you won't have much time in order to do your own work at the end
mhm,
of the day. So when we work on a sprint basis, we have very limited time with us to work on all the user stories that we have. So apart from even during that particular time, we have to try to give some trainings or additional information to our juniors or people working under us. So that is also a little bit of challenge that we have to face. So yeah, that's pretty much.
Okay, all right. Let's breathe and then we'll get into the feedback. How was it for you? The questions.
Okay, sure. It was, the questions were good. I mean, these are the kind of questions that actually these days people are asking during the interviews, like when they talk about the behavioral part or scenario based. So these are the type of questions which I've been like facing.
Right.
But as I told you, right, in between when they start asking you a question and you want to think of a scenario which has happened with you in the past, right? So
Yeah.
it's sometime a little bit, not it becomes overwhelming because you right away do not get a point to, talk. And sometimes it's like you know what to say, but you are not getting the exact words or the exact situation that you want to narrate to them.
Yeah.
So I think these are the small things that we face while we are interviewing with people.
Okay, agreed on. And then the one challenge that you spoke about is, which would have been my next question, that one of that you said is like, oh, I can't create example on the spot or create scenarios on the
Yeah.
spot. What are the other challenges that let's take about like a couple of more challenges that you experience while you interview.
Um, One more thing is, yeah, the time. I sometimes, won't be able to do this time management. I think that is one thing. Uh,
Okay. So are you
so
over
I,
or under time?
So yeah, that's what I'm coming to it. So any question that's asked, right? I do not know what is the kind of time duration that I must be
Mm-hmm.
having in order to explain a particular scenario to them. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I get carried away. I talk a lot when they ask me a particular question, and sometimes I do not talk much. So
Right.
I don't know. There should be definitely a balance between both, right? Like at least like suppose I say I am sparing 2 minutes, so it should be for all the questions have to spare that kind of a time. I cannot, talk a lot about one situation and not talk at all for the other situation. So that is also one
Right.
challenge which I face.
Right.
And apart from that, yeah, as I told you, if I have not experienced a particular thing when they are asking, right? So for
Mm.
me to gather that example, I do not know at that particular point what I should be answering, or if I don't know a particular thing, how to, say them that I don't know, but I also know. So it
Hmm.
should be like that. So that is also a situation which I want to know how to handle those kind of questions.
Okay, okay. All three of them very relevant, very reasonable challenges. I would say the first and the third one that you shared is pretty similar to each other because you
Okay.
can't think of scenarios because you don't have um, an idea of, okay, so let's do it that way. So once we get off this call, I'll give you a to do, which is create a one sheeter. That means a one sheet of all the projects and accomplishments that you have all through your
Okay.
professional life, right?
Hmm.
Since the time you've been an intern or like full time, or you've done a project, academic project, anything, just
Hmm.
make a sheet of all of that. Right now, what is that? That's a cheat sheet of everything that you've done. Right? When you would
Okay.
write about it, you will think about a lot of things, right? What did I do? Who was I? What was my work? Who were the stakeholders? You'll think about all of that. You just don't write the name of the
Right.
project. You'll actually write a little bit more about it.
Hmm.
Now, what happens when you have that? Whenever somebody is asking something, you'll think about the cheat sheet first, right? And then you like, is there anything that I can actually grab from there? And even if okay, another tweak is, even if you can't remember the exact example for a question, they don't
Hmm.
know that you've not experienced or you have experience, right? You
Yeah.
can always
Right.
tweak your answers for that because they would always believe whatever you say with confidence, unfortunately.
Okay.
Right? As a recruiter, I would have believed everything and anything that you've said because honestly, all I know about you is this resume and your face now. I don't know
Yes.
anything else, right? I would have gone to LinkedIn,
Right.
checked checked your profile a couple of times, and that's all what I know. So whatever you would say here with confidence, with that language, with that eye contact, I'm just gonna believe that,
Okay.
right? So bring those experiences from the cheat sheet. That solves one of two things. One is creating scenarios and situations in your mind because you already have it. You just have to
Okay.
bring it.
Right.
Second thing is the
Right.
uncertainty of any kind of questions. Now you don't care about it because whatever questions they bring, you probably have an
Hmm.
example that you can tweak and give it to them and be like, this
Right.
happened, even if it
Okay.
didn't happen.
Okay. Okay.
Third thing is time management. I would say, other than tell me about yourself can be a 3 minute answer,
Okay.
but
Okay.
anything after that needs to be 2.5 minute. But you can
Okay.
only go 2.5 minute if you have a relevant example. Because in some of these questions
Okay.
that I asked, you didn't have an
Hmm.
example. You kept on rambling about the same thing. And that's why I
Yes.
said at the end, like,
Yes.
give me three pointers. And when I asked you for three pointers, you went again for
Yeah.
1 minute, 15 seconds, which is way more
Okay.
than three pointers would need.
Okay. Got
Right?
it.
I create three pointers reels, and which is 40 seconds at the
Wow.
max.
Okay.
I, I,
Mm-hmm.
I do this for work, right? So if I create a reel and I need to give 3 pointers, I'll have a beginning of it's like, oh, these are the 3 points. What interview? What do you think about? And then 3 pointers, and then at the end, like, what do you think about it? Save and blah blah. So that would take 10 seconds, and then
Okay.
I'll have 30 seconds of material. So
Yes.
that's exactly what I needed of you when I said, give me 3 pointers. And I wanted to see if
Three points. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
did derail again, and then your 3 pointers were different than what you actually said before the 3 pointers.
Okay.
So you started talking about, and then you started giving some other examples. I don't know if I've written that or not, but you started giving some other examples which you actually didn't say before the 3 pointers. So for me, it became a new information for
Okay.
me. Okay,
Okay.
so let's talk about question wise question. So we spoke
Mm-hmm.
about the challenges of your profession and the professionals.
Mm-hmm.
So you spoke a little bit more about, that you need to work with the good things were that you said, oh, you need to work with stakeholders, there's time management, there's dependency. I kind of like it. That was honest. But I also would have
Mm-hmm.
wanted to hear that there's a lot of, it's a fast moving profession. So there's a lot of
Right.
learning all the time, right? But because
Okay.
it's fast
Okay.
moving, it gives you
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity to grow as well. So I what I want to tell you is whenever you're speaking about anything, try finding out the
Mm-hmm.
what is the good out of that, right?
Okay.
If I'm saying
Right.
challenges, that's just honestly that is a twisty question. It's like talking about your weakness. And everybody has
Yes.
said that from the beginning. Do not talk about your weakness, talk about your strength, but in a
Mm.
sense that it sounds
Mm.
like a weakness, right? Okay, so if I had to ask you
Right.
what weakness, what would you say?
Mm. So yeah, I've thought about this answer because it's been asked to me a lot of times.
Now this is your time
So
to shine.
so yeah, the weakness, my one of the weaknesses that I have is if somebody is coming for with a doubt or with some kind of help from me, I cannot deny. I will go out of bound, or if something is not in my scope also, I try to put that additional time for them and then try to help them. So this kind of becomes a difficult situation for me because I would have to work on a lot of stuff for a particular day. And at that time, my colleague comes to me with some help that they want, and I am giving my half an hour to that person. And now
Mhm.
I have to accommodate that half an hour later by extending the day, or maybe, logging in later again. So that becomes a little challenging for me sometimes.
Okay, I like that answer. You could have actually started by saying that it's not a weakness per se, but I think because I do it in extremes, it becomes a weakness. I
Right.
love researching with other people and I love if they need help because I mean that there's an idea of the team and we want to like work together. But I think I do an excess of this because as soon as somebody reaches out to me, I forget that there's other things on my calendar, which is a
On my
priority.
case. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
because now what you're doing is you're saying that, oh, it's a team, I need to do, I understand, blah, blah. But then you also understand that you're an individual and you have deliverables as well, right?
Yes.
And you know
Right.
why? Because when you talked about like the challenges, you did speak about this that, when interns come, we have to teach them. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's very difficult, right? To
Yes.
me, as a recruiter, that landed negative on me because now I'm thinking
Okay.
she must have learned it from someone else as well. How can
Mm-hmm.
she deny someone else learning from her? Right? So
Yeah.
I see that leadership quality in you where you're working as a
Mm-hmm.
team, you're more worried about your own things. And now I understand
Right.
when I answer a follow-up question about your weakness, the point is coming because you are spending a lot of time on these people. That's why you're already frustrated and you're like, I can't deal
Okay.
with these people who don't understand. Right now, there is
Okay.
a conflict of interest in my mind
Right.
that she wants to teach or she doesn't want to teach. She actually wants to teach, but she's overdoing it, and that's why she thinks it's a challenge.
Okay.
But no one's going
Got
to
it.
analyze that much. They're just going to think
Mm-hmm.
no leadership qualities,
Okay.
right?
Got
So
it.
if you had to say that, you probably should have said, like I said in the beginning, that I think
Yeah.
the profession grows and changes very frequently. So we have to keep ourselves updated, and which also includes updating the team, updating the interns, and anybody who's onboarding new. So
Right.
it's challenging in that sense because you have to manage your personal deliverables and also manage the team and individual isn't the same.
Okay.
Right? So that shows now what are you thinking about? You're sitting here thinking about yourself, and then you
Yeah.
also have to view of the team. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Um, and I think there were other great points as well. Yeah, I did speak about that, that gives you an opportunity to grow and all of this. And all of your answers were within 2 and 2.5, minutes to 2 minutes 50 seconds. That was your range.
Okay.
So there's not a red flag because we don't want anything under two. We don't want anything above three, other than tell me
Okay.
about yourself. I
Okay.
think that there was a question of compliance. What happened there? Tell me that.
So I didn't get such a question before, and I really have no idea like how to manage that kind of question.
Okay.
But when you told that, I'll give you some time, you think about it. So I just made up some 1 or 2 points and like told you about it.
Correct. One, because you didn't think for 30 seconds. If you rewatch the recording, you will
Yes.
realize you did not think for 30 seconds. You
Yes. Yes.
you start speaking the fifth second. I would say if someone's giving you some time, take that time, think about it. If
Okay.
you don't want to think, it's fine. Calm your heart down because if your heart is beating faster, then there is no way
Right.
your mind is working at the right speed. So you got to
Right.
bring it down, take 2, 3 deep breaths, which
Hmm.
actually help, and then bring in whatever your mind is shedding.
Okay.
That being said, if somebody asks you a question which is uncertain, which you have no idea, is like, this is not meant for me, just
Hmm.
tell them, hey, give me a second to jot down my thoughts. Let me write down this
Okay.
question because I think I have something very interesting for this one. Now they're thinking that you're bringing something interesting. Don't care if
Okay.
you bring something interesting or not, but you bought yourself at least 5 seconds while you're saying
Yes.
that and then while you're
Yeah.
taking notes, right?
Notes.
You
Okay.
put yourself a couple of minutes. If you can't think of anything else, you can be like, oh, this is a great question. Let me take a sip of water and then I'll start with it. Take a sip of water,
Yeah.
calm it down. All of these tricks are like 5 second rule, but it's extremely important to keep yourself calm during
Okay.
the process. Um, I like what you said about like audit risks and all. I really wanted you to say a lot more about like when we study data, we understand the security and the compliance both. But then when we
Mm-hmm.
also onboard, there are company policies that we read through, and then we
Mm-hmm.
understand that what is the idea of compliance regulation, and of course that changes with the project. But then every employee is supposed to, of course, it's mandatory to do those trainings. So I think
Yeah. Yeah.
um, for us professionals, because we are in that high risk zone, we always make sure that we talk about that in the company meeting in the beginning of the project, so that all of us are aligned with it rather than one individual being very accountable.
Okay.
So what am I trying to do is bring your attention to the fact that it's not only your responsibility to do it, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
Second, also bringing in the idea that company actually tells us that, but then also as a team, we do a good job at reminding each other about that at equal
Okay.
intervals, right?
Right.
And then I think this was the question I asked, like, summarize in 3 bullet points, right? And where
Yes.
are we talking
Yes.
about financial data, which is fine because I think I I caught you off guard and then I started enjoying it. Okay, and then I asked that how are you different than the other candidates that we have? Right? So I like that you talked about that you have different aspects, which is functional, business, and technical. So I definitely like those divisions, and you were very, very clear about what is that makes you different. Um, to make it like cherry on the top, you can always add that I keep myself updated, and then I
Okay.
like reading about the company competitors, or I
Mm-hmm.
like reading about what's happening in the industry, so that I can bring those
Right.
knowledges. Um, I can bring those knowledge to my own company and my own project, just
Okay.
to make sure that we are up at par with what's happening in the industry. So whatever
Okay.
you said was absolutely nice. I'm just adding on because I think
Yeah.
that'll.
Got it. Yeah.
Then we spoke about the last project, and then I I love that you followed kind of the star method, right? You were
Mm-hmm.
following situation, task, action, and everything was there. I missed two things. One, I didn't know what you did it in that because everything was
Okay.
E. I did not hear
Okay.
I at all.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I now know the project, but I don't know were you in the project or not,
Got it.
right?
But you know what? Telling you the truth, most of my answers will have we. I don't know, but when I start talking, I start with an I maybe sometimes, but most of the times I end up with a we, or yeah, that happens. I have kind of analyzed this, and it has happened with me in a couple of interviews as well. When I'm getting such questions and I start with an I have worked on this, and it slowly goes and progresses to we. I
Correct.
don't know how that happens. Yeah.
Which is okay. That kind of shows that you are a team player. You are resonating with what the team does. But I also want to understand that, for an example, oh, we went to picnic. I arranged the food.
Yeah.
We
So
were in the
my
car.
part into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were in the car. I drove the car. I mean, there needs to be something about you. We went to the picnic. We were in the car. We enjoyed. We came back. Did you go? I don't know,
Yeah. Right.
right? And that's the simplest analogy I could give because you were either you're narrating the project or you were in the project. If you were in the project,
Hmm.
there must have been some action and impact from your side as well. So what I'm
Yes.
trying to tell you is if this is a project, Baisakhi, and then if I take you out of the project, does that matter to
Right.
the project?
It doesn't, because the way I've narrated, it's okay even if I'm not there in it. Yeah.
Right. So now you have to think that if I'm narrating in this sense, if
Hmm.
I am taken out, then there is no food, literally, because I took the food for the picnic. Now nobody can
Yeah.
drive anywhere because I actually drove them. So I have an
Right.
important part in the whole scenario, in the whole project, correct? Um,
Yes.
and then yes, and then at the end, I didn't see any results out of that, or maybe I missed it.
Okay.
But I didn't see
Okay.
any like, oh, so you did the project, what happened? The impact.
Okay.
So like you talked
Got
about
it.
a project and then you were like, oh, you know what? Because of the project this happened or the project was completed. Like I need something about the project that I want to remember
Sure.
as it, right? So it can
Got
be
it.
result, it can be an impact, it can be a
Okay.
reduction of cost, it can be a reduction of an error, it
Hmm.
can be happy customer, it can be happy leadership, happy
Yeah.
management, it can
Okay.
be something there.
Sure.
Uh, I don't understand my handwriting, but there is some question. Wow, Lord. Okay, we'll probably go back to something else. Okay, yes, we talked about how do you manage the stakeholders, and then you've had
Hmm.
a conflict. Oh yes, the other one was underperformance. Okay, great. Okay, so we talked about managing stakeholder conflict and challenge, correct? I
Right.
think it was good. I love that you spoke about soft skills, open communication. You were continuously talking about that, that you can actually speak with them and make them understand that this is affecting your project and all of those things. I would have
Hmm.
loved to hear what you already said, I guess, that I would have loved to hear an example because now whatever you were saying
Okay.
was in round and round for me. Because
Okay.
something
Okay.
and then you were just trying to justify that. And I understood the first line of it that,
Right.
I would want to have open communication with them and would ask them what the issue is what I understood. I'm paraphrasing. And then I kept on waiting for the
Okay.
next 2 minutes because it went for 2 minutes, 50 seconds. I
Hmm.
waited the next 2 minutes to
Hmm.
understand how, to
Hmm.
understand, okay, I got that there is a,
Instead, if I would have given an example saying that, so something like this, I can give you an example of this, and then I could have told something else, then
yeah.
maybe it would have been better.
Yeah, absolutely. Always in
Okay.
any situational based question, you are supposed to give, you are expected to give a scenario, you're expected to give a situation. That's why it is situation based. And
Right.
that's called behavioral because
Right.
if you've not described a situation, how are you describing your behavior? Right.
Yeah,
So if somebody asks
that's true.
you,
Yeah.
talk about a challenging situation with a stakeholder and be like, oh, I mean, being in the center of the business, we of course get to deal with a lot of stakeholders and I've worked with blah, blah, blah. Then just name like this is your time to
Name. Yeah.
just name like I
Yeah.
have worked with like 15 of these stakeholders or like five of these stakeholders. And I, in one of the projects that we were doing, name the project, explain the project a little bit. We were working with this X team, and one of the person from there were to go on a long vacation, but they didn't inform us beforehand, and that
Hmm.
made
Hmm.
communication
Hmm.
extremely difficult. There was a time we might have had to extend the project deadline, which we didn't want because there was a leadership visibility to the project. Then we had to get a hold of them right before they were leaving. And then they were asked to give it to someone because the leave was for almost 2 weeks. So they were asked to hand it over to someone else. And then we could actually get back on track. What was difficult was to ask them to hand it over to someone else. But we always understand that there needs to
Yes.
be a work life balance. But then also, in terms of business perspective, this was extremely important because, right? And then you add that because now what you're
Hmm.
showing is the business impact of it. If you wouldn't have done the
Right.
project, what would have happened? Correct. So
Hmm.
again, here was your time to shine because it was such a simple question. You could have actually made it. You could have actually made
Hmm.
it where you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, it's a lot. I totally get that. I'm sorry about it.
Yes.
I would love to share all the feedbacks that I have.
No, that's good. I mean, see, I would have told a couple of things which are correct maybe, but the way you are explaining, right, that you could have added this as well to it. Like your answer is fine, but if you added this, it would have sounded even more nice. But when you're explaining that to me and I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, yes, that's right. If a person who is interviewing me, if they get these kind of answers from me, they would love to hear more and then, like talk more, or they would understand me more. And in that case, what happens? Obviously, they'll not go more deep into the technical stuff, or they don't want to know the technical aspects of the project. Instead, they'll get to know that, okay, this girl has actually worked on a lot of stuff and she has a knowledge about many things that's going on within a given project.
Right. And honestly, all the behavioral questions, like people, I think, have this idea that, oh, behavioral questions are only about the behavior. Yes,
No.
but behavior as a professional, you're not detaching yourself.
Yes.
I still remember who you are, right? So I
Yeah.
don't be friends with you. I want to employ you, and if I'm hiring you, I
Hmm.
need to know both sides of you, who you are as a
Yes.
personality. Would you fit in my company
Yes.
culture? Would you fit in my team culture? If you would fit in, then tell me about your technical aspect. Because as good as you would be in your technical aspect, if you're not fitting in my
Hmm.
team dynamic, there is no way I would take you. I have rejected, honestly, not even lying, I have rejected people who have 90% of hard skills and do not have the 10% of soft skills, because I know the hiring
Right.
manager is going to be like, why did you bring them? Like, they're no good,
Okay.
right? Because then they're missing that piece. And by no means, you're not missing that piece, not at all. You
Hmm.
have, you just
Okay.
need to bring it in front of the recruiter.
Got it.
Right? And
Yeah.
then whenever you're thinking about the star method, or whenever you're thinking about a situation and
Hmm.
answering it,
Hmm.
always remember that it needs to be minimum words but maximum impact. So if do
Okay.
not talk about the
Impact.
process
Yeah.
just in general, but definitely talk about the impact. So in for an example, if
Okay.
you'll say that, oh, this is all what we did. We spoke to the stakeholders, we made sure there's like, there's open communication, and then there was this timeline, deadline. Yes, yes, yes. But you could have actually said in a sense that we had challenges during the stakeholder communication because there was no proper documentation. So I initiated, started the documentation and reporting, shared it in the next team meeting, and we all made sure that we are in sync, even if we are not meeting every week, because multiple projects were going, simultaneously, and it's understandable. But because of the documentation, I think there was a smooth process in the project. So I'm so glad that I initiated and I created that. And because of that, we saved a week in the project and actually launched it a little sooner. And I think that gave us a lot of visibility in the leadership as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
whenever you're remembering it, remember what is that other person taking from this answer?
Right.
He is a nobody in the project, in the company that you're talking about. They're a
Yes.
third, maybe fourth, or maybe the fifth party to this conversation. So if you're saying something that they need to take notes of, what should they be writing in their notes that would make the hiring manager be very impressed about my work,
Hmm.
right? So hiring
Yeah.
manager would probably not be impressed about open communication. They probably would be
Hmm.
very impressed about stakeholder management and you initiating the documentation.
Documentation. Yeah. Got it.
Really simple, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
what as a recruiter I'm going to write is da 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 da, initiated, da da da. So now there's stakeholder management, there is initiation, and then there is the timeline of the project that you reduced, and then there's leadership visibility. Is exactly what we need.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are we feeling?
I feel better. I think I can take a lot of inputs from whatever you said,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll try to, practice more so that when I am in front of a recruiter tomorrow and they
Mm-hmm.
ask me similar questions, I should be able to, recollect, okay, Shreya had told me, suggested me these things.
One.
So let's do it. And I think
Yeah.
for that, I'll have to like, learn a lot and kind of like practice. That's all. Like,
There are two things I'll give you. One, create that sheet. And if you need
yes,
help, like I can give you prompts, like you know where to find me, so find me, and then I'll give you
sure.
prompts of like how to do
Okay.
it. Second most important thing is when you are doing all of this, so what you did right now is you narrated everything in front of me, right? Do that in front of
Yes.
yourself and then
Yeah.
see, does
Yeah.
that matter to you? Like, would you even hear this story for 2 minutes? Like, you would
Mm-hmm.
really laugh about it, but right now I'm doing this with my husband and absolutely enjoying it. And
Yeah.
then I do it with him, and this is so he's in one of the man companies and he's trying for another one, and he's
Okay.
failing his behavioral, which is a shame for me, but he's failing his behavioral. But now we're practicing, and then all my clients improve from this to this, but only if you realize that you need it, right? So
Yeah.
what I'm saying about the mirror technique is when you stand in front of a mirror, you realize that whatever you're saying is not impactful. And nobody else can tell you better than a coach or yourself. You would not hear
Yeah.
anybody else, not even from a friend, not even from
Hmm.
family. You'll be like, what would you know? You are not even in this field, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
You would probably
Yes.
say that,
Yes.
right? Because I've heard this from people. So
Yeah.
they probably say that. And but you need to understand that if a coach is saying it, if your mirror is saying it, that means there is something.
Yes.
So two techniques. One is definitely making that cheat sheet.
Making notes. Yeah.
Second is stand in front of the mirror, time yourself, look
Yeah.
at yourself. Because I like that. You have language, you have body language, you have vocal language, you have
Mhm.
non-verbal cues. Everything else is all set. But whatever
Okay.
you're saying needs to be a little bit more impactful.
Got it.
Okay,
I think the
that's how.
storytelling has to be a little more better, right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I have 11 clients for January, and 7 of them are for storytelling. So I totally get what you're saying. It's extremely important because everybody has a lot of work experience. It's just how you narrate it is very, very important.
Yes.
And then you can actually tweak it. Nobody knows what you've done.
Yeah, obviously. How will they have an idea?
Yeah, whatever you
It's about the confidence with which I'm talking, right? So,
actually,
yeah.
absolutely. It's just what you tell them if they believe it. If you want to make them believe it, you need to believe it first. So that's the
Yeah.
confidence,
Yes.
right?
Yes, for sure.
I'll give you a minute to breathe, to take a sip of water, and then I'll ask a couple of more questions. So I'm hoping you will
Okay.
utilize what we just did, and that's why a couple of minutes for
Yeah.
you. Absolutely
Sure.
not the questions that we already asked because now I don't remember,
Okay.
and I don't think I can understand my handwriting. I'll probably ask a different
Okay.
set of questions. So we'll give you a
Yeah.
minute, and then
Mm.
while you're doing this, think about the most important 3 points that you would want to
Mm-hmm.
take to an interview that you've learned today.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So Baisakhi, give me an idea that you being in the center of the business, how do you collaborate with stakeholders? And can you bring an example of a successful collaboration with other stakeholders?
Yeah, sure. So when we talk about collaboration with stakeholders, the first thing that we do is obviously, set up a meeting with them, and during the meeting we have an agenda set up where we can follow that agenda in order to make sure that we are um, taking all the points of that. So first thing what we do is obviously introduce each other to each other, and after the introductions we start with what has brought us all together in the room today. So that is the thing which we do, and after which we so suppose we have started working on a project, and we are or we are planning about a project, so we start talking about the scope. And once we have that scope in hand, we try to see how from where we could gather all the information about the project, what are the sources we are targeting, and who are the businesses that we are targeting. Then we talk about who are the people who will be using these functionalities once they are in production, and if there are any functionalities, are there any kind of enhancements that we're doing on top of it which is going to affect the businesses.
Hmm.
And if it is affecting, then is it going to be an optimized solution, or is it going to reduce the cost, overall cost, or is it reducing the overall time that the person is taking from, extracting till the loading process. So I think these are the things that we talk about when we start with, the initial collaboration with any stakeholder. And talking about an example from my previous experience, it is a similar thing as I mentioned. Like, we set up a meeting with them, we go through the agenda, all the topics that we need to cover, and the topics which I already mentioned to you, like what are the couple of things that we can, discuss during the meeting. So those were the things which we discussed for our project. So yeah, and then we set up a time where we could meet them again. So probably that would be the next week. By that week, we would try to write some documentations. We would try to gather more requirements. We would try to understand the business logic, or we would try to gain more information about the source systems, about the target systems. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Time wise, really good. 2 minute 30 seconds. So right on time.
Okay.
And I like that you address both the questions that, how do you deal with them, and then give me an example. I like both. Um, you spoke about how do you deal with them in terms of a process. So definitely
Yeah.
good. Like you talked about OB setting expectations and all of that.
Hmm.
What I would have really wanted to hear more in the example is an example.
Okay.
Right, because if you rewatch
Right.
it, you'll understand there was no example. You just said that
Yes.
for an
Yes.
example, going back to setting up the meeting, because if there would have been an example, I would have heard a project. I would have
Right.
heard who were the
Mm-hmm.
stakeholders. I didn't hear any name of any stakeholders, and I didn't hear
Okay.
any. I would have also loved to hear as a recruiter is that, oh, we set up expectations from the very beginning that for
Hmm.
us, this project is a priority. Is it a priority for them also? It is a priority for us in this sprint. We need to complete it. This is a launch date, excuse me. Do they have that availability of resources, and are they an integral part of it? So just setting up expectations and laying that ground. And then you start with meeting and agendas and introductions. Because if you don't have that expectation, so imagine this is extremely important for you right now, what we're doing,
Right.
correct? Imagine if
Yes.
it wouldn't have been a priority for me and I wouldn't have shown up for the meeting, would
Mm.
you wouldn't have felt great about this collaboration, right?
Yeah.
I am I am in that time sensitive zone as you are, because I as a coach understand that this is time sensitive and this is
Yes.
extremely important. So whatever I'm giving you here is from that space of critical time sensitive information, and that's where you are at as well, right? So this is setting up expectation,
Okay.
this is important. Third thing, like I already said, I would have wanted to hear, I didn't hear it. And so now in this whole process, I don't know who are your stakeholders. Okay,
Mm.
name some of your stakeholders for me.
So I've worked with T-Mobile. I've worked with Walmart. So the stakeholders from there. So I
Name your stakeholders is all what I said. Okay, so you as a data professional must have worked with teams, must have worked
yes.
with
Yes.
anybody else who didn't have the same title as you. These are the people
Yeah.
who are stakeholders in a project, right?
Hmm.
Because now that one project has multiple people from different fields because they're making it happen, correct?
Hmm.
Right now, what is happening? This is a collaboration, you, me, and the
Yes.
company. So if you
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
bring in who are the stakeholders, I'm the stakeholders,
Mm.
Apeksha and the company, Sachin and the company are the
Right.
stakeholders, you and your job search is a stakeholder. So stakeholders
Yeah.
are people who are involved in the project, right? So now tell
Hmm.
me who are the stakeholders that you work with.
So I've worked with applications team. I have worked with operations team. I've worked with the technical teams. So they would be considered as the stakeholders, right? Yeah.
100%. And then 60 minutes of conversation, let's say
Yeah.
55. I didn't hear
Hmm.
anyone. So
Right.
now you're making me believe at the end of the interview also that you are actually just narrating. You're not a part of any of these experiences.
Okay.
Right. I'm being extremely critical because I get these 60 minutes with you to be honestly be critical and give you the feedback, right? So now at the end of these
Hmm.
60 minutes, I'm just thinking you might have done some work, but you keep on saying we. You might have done some work, but you don't know your stakeholders. You've given me 3 examples out of 8 questions. So I don't know if you've actually done the work or not. Your resume says opposite. but you say something that your resume, like you don't say things that your resume has. So what would I believe,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So
Mm.
so say your tools, say your applications, things that you've worked with, say the name of the project. So whenever you talk about the STAR method, the STAR, the S needs to be the situation, which is I worked on a
Mm.
project. It's where I was your title, and then the project was about this. All of this needs to be done within the first 25 seconds of the answer. You're setting up the ground rule. Now, what is happening? You're narrating that to me. I am also now visualizing that you were this data engineer in this project. And then you will speak a little bit about the process. Then you'll jump into talking about the tools right away, that, this was a challenge,
Right.
this was a process. This is These are the tools that we started using and we were working with. Then you start talking about the stakeholders. Then you go to this is how we resolved. That is your action and your result both together. And then at the end, if you have time, if you think it's a bigger project, you talk about your learnings as well. Why am I giving you that structure? Because if you keep your mind in structured answer format, you are not derailing at all, because your mind is like, come back, we have to talk about the second point also, come back, we have to talk about the result also, or come back, we have to summarize it because it's already 2 minutes 50 seconds, it can't go beyond 3 minutes, right? So train your mind that it needs to be in structure of STAR. It needs to be within 2 minute 30 seconds, highest 3 minutes, and then there needs to be an example, and you would be doing all of it for yourself when you'll stand in front of the mirror,
Mm.
right? You'll
Right.
keep reminding yourself. And then you'll see your expressions, because that'll be fun, because then
Mm.
imagine you are talking, you're trying to be nice with someone, and then your mind is trying to be not nice with you, right? So you've got to be calm in your expressions.
Actually, this has happened with me, when you ask a question, I
Mhm.
know in my mind that I have to follow the star and, give them all one by one the explanation about star and what is
Yeah,
the result that I'm getting from it.
yeah,
But when I start with the situation, but something happens in between and I actually like get diverted, I do not go to the conclusion. This
yeah,
has happened multiple times. And I think through this later after the interview and I'm like, okay, I just screwed it up. I
yeah.
had the answer in me, but I screwed it.
Yeah, I'll tell you for two reasons, probably, is what I can see in such a time. One
Okay,
is you have a lot to share. It's not
right,
just, it's not in a concised form, because
right.
you're thinking everything is important, they would not understand otherwise.
Yeah,
But you're not making them understand. They're not a part of the project. You're just
yes.
making them understand that how important the project was for you, for your
Mm,
growth, and
mm,
how you were important for the project. These are the only two things that they need to know. They
right,
don't need to know, they don't want to be the part of the project, but
yes.
they want to understand that who you were in the project and
Mm,
what would have happened if you weren't there.
okay,
Right? So that's one. Second is when you derail now, you try to bring it back from the longer route, because
yes,
you're like, oh, I've already started, now let me finish this.
yes,
Correct?
that happens. Yes,
Yeah. Which I could see, because you were trying to explain something, you're like, okay, let me explain a little bit, I'll come back to the point.
yes, yes.
So if you ever see yourself derailing, you can actually pause and be like, I'll have to cut short this and go to the example that we were
Okay,
talking.
got it.
Example. Or if you see yourself derailing, you can actually be like, I'm just going to talk about the applications, because I would love to talk about the results as well. Right. So
Okay,
now, and what I did was, this was me giving myself a pause, that
okay,
please stop talking, right? Because
okay.
somebody has to remind you, and then in an interview, unfortunately, it's just going to be you.
Yeah, of course.
That's why I said practice in front
Yeah.
of the mirror, because either you listen to a coach or you listen to
Mm,
yourself. You won't listen to anybody else.
yes, that's right.
Right? And that usually happens. So train your mind that it's okay. One, don't derail. That's the best way to live. But
Yes,
you always take
yeah,
plan B. So plan B is, if you derail, train your mind to come back, and then train your mind that if we've derailed, we don't have to take the longer route. We can always take a U-turn and come back.
right.
And
Yeah,
like
that I do not do. I know, I don't do that.
and I saw that just in the last question, because when
Mm,
we started
mm,
speaking about the example, you said, so one of the example is, like I was talking earlier, that we would have
yeah,
agenda meetings, and I was like, why are we going back to that? You're supposed to give me an example. And then I tried giving you the hints by looking at the time, by looking here and there, but you didn't get that
Okay.
cue that the other person
Hmm.
is getting bored. I was just trying to give you those cues that
Okay.
listen, like you are derailed, but
Hmm.
not on phone calls, you would not understand that because we were on a
Yeah.
video. I wanted you to know.
Yeah.
But yes, I would probably say create the cheat sheet, start
Sure.
practicing mirror, and
Yeah.
then bring back those thoughts. If you can't think
Hmm.
of anything else, the easiest would be whatever behavioral questions you get asked, write
Hmm.
them down on a piece of paper and start
Right.
answering that on a piece of paper. Because
Right.
when you will read and then you'll be like, huh, this doesn't have what I
Hmm.
really want to share, right? This doesn't have
Yes.
any, and
Yes.
then you start redrafting it like you would do for a school assignment, and
Yeah.
then that is where it's going to be impactful. And then I'm not
Okay.
saying read it, learn it, and then practice it. I'm just saying once your mind would know that, oh, this example also has this data, why am I not sharing that, then it'll become a practice of sharing that. It will take
Okay.
time, but I think
Okay.
what you're missing right now is practice.
Right. I will have to do it because there are a couple of things which I already know I should be working on, and certain things which I got to know from you today. So I think I will have to like add on both and try to give myself more time into this. And yeah, as you said, practice in front of the mirror. That's all is the best
Absolutely,
option right
because
now.
I cannot say that enough that you have the language, you have the confidence, you have the work.
Hmm.
It's just the practice is missing, and
Right.
motivation comes with practice. It's like
Yes.
you just go start playing football in the international level. You can't perform well until you're practiced well. So I say
Yes.
recruit, I say interviewing, I say speaking with anybody in a professional ground is it's to that level these days because
Yes.
you get one
Yes.
opportunity, unfortunately. If you're getting an interview and you're not cracking it,
Hmm.
honestly, that's on you. In this market, getting an interview is also becoming difficult. So if you're getting an
Yes.
interview and not cracking it, that's definitely something that you're lacking there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So I so think about what are the things that we learned today, 5, 10, whatever. Bring them
Yeah.
down on paper so that you can remember that this is what you need to do. And
Sure.
then definitely play that cheat sheet and do the mirror technique. You should be solid.
Yeah. I'll do it. Yeah.
Sure. Do you have other questions?
Hello.
Yeah. I think you're back now. Or not. You can try turning off your video. Probably that would help. Okay, you're back. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have other questions?
No, I think we are connected on LinkedIn. So anytime if I have any questions or something, I can definitely reach to you, right?
Yeah, we're connected on WhatsApp also. Now we're connected on email also,
Yes.
probably because the calendar link had my email as well. So we
Yes.
can everywhere. Just if you WhatsApp me, just let me know your names because I probably don't save
Yeah.
all the
Sure.
names.
Sure.
It'll
Definitely.
be easier that ways. But then if you connect on LinkedIn, then I will probably know.
Okay. Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And then I know it was a lot to take in, but all of that is extremely important feedback for
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
You probably wouldn't get that honest from anybody else but coaches. So I'm glad that we
Absolutely.
got to
Yes.
connect. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shreya. Thank you so much for helping. And I will definitely talk to you sometime because I will be needing more help. I know that.
You got
So, yeah.
that. All right, perfect. I look forward to speaking with you. Bye,
Yeah.
Baisakhi.
Bye bye. Have a good day. Bye.
You too. Thanks. Bye.